Financial disclaimer. The information provided in this stream is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered as professional financial or investment advice. We are not licensed financial advisors, and the content presented here is based on our personal opinions and experiences. Investing in stocks and other financial instruments involves risk, including the potential loss of capital. Any investment decisions you make are solely your own responsibility, and you should conduct your own research and consult with a qualified financial professional before making any investment choices. The content we share on this stream may not be accurate, complete, or up to date. Market conditions and financial regulations can change rapidly, and we cannot guarantee the accuracy or reliability of the information presented. We do not endorse or promote any specific stocks, companies, or investment strategies. Any actions you take based on the content of this stream are at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses or damages that may occur as a result. Always remember that past performance is not indicative of future results, and no investment is guaranteed to be profitable. Make informed decisions and consider your risk tolerance before investing any funds. By accessing and using this stream, you acknowledge and agree that we are not responsible for any investment decisions you make as a result of the content presented. You are encouraged to seek advice from qualified financial professionals for personalized guidance. Please invest responsibly and only with money you can afford to lose.
Hey man, just found the next guaranteed multi-bagger.
Hey man, you found another one? What is it this time?
Come check this out.
Okay, next please. How can I help you, young man?
We want to go all in on NVNI. We love that the price is 31 cents and they only have 2 sentences in the business description. It's simple, we get it.
Well, that's fantastic. A really smart decision, young man. We can put that check and it's gone.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Laughing Stock. Johnny, how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. It's been a good week, I think. What about you?
Yeah, I actually had a good week. Finally bounced back a little bit from last week, even though the markets have been doing well. As always, adjusting things and fine-tuning. And this is the current portfolio, which I'm just kind of in some stuff from yesterday. But I was up almost exactly 3% for the month here and 2% for the week.
Yeah, nice. That is a good week, though.
Yeah, 2% for the week. I mean, yeah, I guess the month doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But either way, last week was pretty good.
Yeah, and it's been a bit hard to navigate. Not hard to navigate, like you say. It's been a 3-4 week period now that has been pretty well for me. I'm still doing stupid mistakes that cost me performance-wise. So still a lot to work on, but I'm also making some better picks in the last month or so. But the market has been like, it can turn completely around in a day now. It starts down a little bit and then all of a sudden it's green and then vice versa. I think it was yesterday, right? You sent me a message and everything was like that. It's not a lot, but it's just like a complete U-turn. And I don't even know what the news was. I think it was some comments from some rate cuts or something like. I didn't really dig into it. But like you said in the title, it seems like no one cares, right? Because it's still just going higher.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if any of the news has been like big enough that it matters. Like, you know, they had hinted at possibly 2 rate cuts before at the last meeting, or 2 more rate cuts, and you know, now some people are saying maybe not, maybe only 1. So, like, yeah, the markets will pull back a little bit from that because obviously there was optimism in terms of the rate cuts.
Yeah.
And you know, our government shut down. Oh well.
Yeah.
we don't need them.
No.
They're not doing anything. So. Yeah. You know, that's like you hear this news and, you know, it's fun because I'm not really a macro guy in any means, but something like I like to do, I've been doing this with ChatGPT, is I'm like, hey, how does the market typically react when there's like a government shutdown? And basically ChatGPT is like, looking historically, it doesn't matter. If anything, it goes up within the next few weeks. So
it happened.
yeah, so even if it shuts down, it says it's like very rare it even dips from it. I think it said over the past, like, I don't know, so I can't remember how many times, but like I think there's only like 8 actual shutdowns that it, like, in the time period it looked at, and even during those periods it barely went down at all if it did.
Yeah,
So pretty much it just goes to show you that most of the time that's like a nonsense news, like just noise. So
yeah.
um, it kind of helps because, you know, when you pull up like a finance page and that's what all the news is about, quickly being able to infer, well, does this actually ever have any real effect? Knowing it doesn't, okay, good, move on.
Yeah. And also historically, you know, September, October has been weak months, but I feel like this year they were good for me, at least so far.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of testing I've been doing, um, and it definitely had some pullbacks from it. It really it led me to, the whole point is, like I said, I was kind of doing like shotgun type spreads, trying different things, going in with pretty small position sizes. Typically 2.5% is of the portfolio is what I've been taking in terms of positions, and I had a pretty loose stop on that. And reason being is, you know, if even if I had a 8 or 10% stop on it, it's still a really small amount of the portfolio for those. Now, don't get me wrong, it can hurt you at times, especially as they build up. And we weren't on last week, but at one point the week before, I was up 8% in 1 week, and literally let it pull back entirely and lost all of it like an idiot. And at the time, I had that euphoric feeling where it's like, hey, you should sell. This is really, really good. And instead of listening to my common sense there, decided, well, let's see where it can go from here. And I got to see exactly where it was going to go. Went right back down. So
You should never listen to common sense, Dane.
yeah, I know. That was my problem. I could really nail this account to 0 if I stopped listening to common sense.
Yeah.
But
No, but 8% in a week, it's fantastic, right? And
yeah.
that's I also had a great week that week. I think I was up around the same, and it's just like it, all of a sudden you understand that, of course, you need to replicate that week after week, but it is possible to have some really good runs with this strategy that we are turning we have the same kind of strategy, right? But we are looking at still at a few different things, and I like that because then we can, you know, we come from two little bit of a different angles, even though both are from breakouts and stuff like that. But it's very interesting for me to follow everything that you test and see what's working and not for your style and what you are doing now. Because I know you do a lot of testing, and I mean 8%. If you had sold everything and 8% in a week, it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, and there was a point where everything was up. I think it was on like Tuesday, I was up almost 4%. And then on Wednesday, I was up for over 4% at one point with the entire account. And I just thought, you know what? I'm like, I bet the right move would be right now is to sell because, you know, usually when all that stuff is moving that fast and like literally everything in my portfolio was green. Everything was up. Even the stuff that had been trailing was up like 3 or 4% that day. So it's pretty rare that I see that. So you can just tell it was one of those great days in the market where everything was at a peak. And then, of course, it did all pull back. And I think that was right when that news came out about that possible, them not cutting the rates twice or whatever it was. Which, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I had that feeling. And at one point I was like, I probably should sell everything or at least trim it. And I didn't. Smart move would have at least been to trim it. I should have at least trimmed it. But that's
something I've been struggling with also lately to find. And you told me like you adjusted after that happened, right? And made some rules about when to sell and when to trim. And one of them were like, if you have that feeling, like if it's getting a bit high up there and it's a bit euphoric, you should probably trim, right?
Yeah,
and
there's
in the same. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, and it's not like it's a certain percent or anything that I'm looking for. It's just like kind of like a feel, like, you know, you've been in some of these positions for a little bit, and you know, a couple of them are working or all of them are working, whatever it is, and you get this feeling because like it's in a very short amount of time that you jump up like 1 or 2%. Like you know, the day opens and you're up like 0.5%, and then you know an hour of the days pass by and you're already up 2 or 3%. You know that that's a very rare instance where all your stuff's moving like that, and it's just the whole market's moving.
Yeah.
And it's somewhere in that point where now going forward, I probably will cut almost everything.
Yeah. But completely or trim heavy?
It depends probably on what the
Yeah.
position is. I'm not going to say I would do just one. The stuff that's really up, I'll probably trim decently, probably like 2/3, or sell all of it, you know, because to be honest, like you have to understand as a trader, it's so rare, or even I mean, investor, it doesn't matter. It's so rare you're going to capture the top. It's so hard to do.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if that's an expectation of yours, get rid of it immediately. It's impossible to do. Don't try to even shoot for that. If you can capture 60% of 100% move, that's huge. You know.
Yeah. If you can catch the tops and the bottoms and all, I want to talk with you because I want to know what you're doing.
Everybody wants to talk to you.
But so far I have not seen anyone else who systematically does that. So then it comes down to luck then, and you can be lucky and say you nailed some top or something, but usually, and I showed you a chart just before we went on. I added to a position, then it went down 13%, quite heavy, right? And I started to lose some gains. The trade was still profitable for me, but I sold out and protected everything. That it reached my stop loss. But then it
What
goes
did you say it was? Which one?
AREC.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought you were talking about. I
Yeah,
just wanted to
we
pull it
can
up.
go through it. Yeah, because I was in
Whoops.
this for I don't know how long,
Right.
but
Sorry, I'm
it
just trying
was
to
for.
pull up this.
It was a very good trade for me to start with a 10% position. And then I decided to try to get another 10% in, so up to 20%, and I did that on Monday, 29th of September. So that was the beginning of this week, right?
Yeah,
And then
this big move
everything got,
here.
yeah, and I hit it right, and it went up, and I was like super happy with the timing and everything. And then it pulled back, and I started to be a bit, because I saw similar candles in the past in this stock, and after it had pulled back a little bit from one of these tops, you can see it falls a little bit in the coming days. But I said to myself that I think this candle is a bit different position, because it's not really a top like the other ones, because that top would be on 22nd of September. If that candle looked a little bit like that, I would be more worried. And that was my thinking at the time, to stay in a full 20% position, which was the mistake, because I was sitting here the last half hour of the market, and I was like, oh, I should probably take that 10% off again, the one I added, and that would be a tiny profit if I did. But then I decided to just leave it. And then, of course, the next day, because it had some news also, that's important to say, on that day, it had some news that were very positive. And then, of course, the next day, it goes down 13%, and I sell the entire 20% position, and it messed with my total gain in the stock. But it was still profitable, so I'm happy with it still, you know. But then it's just so annoying to see what it did, you know, in the next 3 days. Next week, I mean, on Friday, it was up 20%. Imagine if I had my 20% position in this and was still in it now. That would be amazing, you know.
Yeah, being that you were stopped out, were you hesitant then to get on October 7th?
Yeah,
The
it
second?
didn't show up in my radar again.
Oh, okay.
So that was just a mistake. I got a bit sloppy, but also I moved on kind of and checked the other positions, but I did check it on the next day, and I was like, oh, I'm happy I sold, you know. But then I didn't check on Thursday and Friday.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's just like I feel like my thinking at the time was good, but my mistake was to not take that 10% off the same day that I took it on, because it had such a drastic pullback. But in the end, if I just I would have been stopped out anyways, because it went below the 10-day moving average there. But you know, in the end, the news were positive, and you can see where the price is now.
Yeah. So question for you on the 29th, when you added your 10%, what was your stop loss at?
I think I raised it to I think I just raised it to below the 10-day moving average, a little bit below it. I can't even remember exactly where I put it. I can see where I got stopped out. Hold on. $273. Yeah, so a little bit below the 10-day.
So just food for thought, because this is something that I started doing, and sure, I get stopped out of stuff, but I get stopped out of stuff for a lot of small profits. But
Yeah.
what happens if you put like so you add that 10%, what happens if from the point that you add that 10%, just put like a small stop loss on it, like 5%. So then that way, even if this got all the way up, like where did you add the 10% on this day, on the 29th? Do you know what?
299 I got in.
Right. So at 299, put it at like, you could have put it at, I don't know what 5% from there is. Or as this went up, so my point being is just so when it does pull back, if you're adding to it and you're trying to get that big gain, like you're trying to maximize those gains, but you're also trying to do it only in stocks that are really, truly working. So if you get into one and it pulls right back and you get kicked out, yes, you'll keep that small profit cushion from the first part. You won't lose as much on the second part if you keep that stop loss tight. If it's a stock that's moving correctly, it should have went up from here. Like this 20% move on this day, if this was the right timing, it would have been on this day and you would have stayed in. It would have went right up way past that stop loss. But if you do keep it tight, if you do get stopped out, even if it ends up working out and you just get stopped out, I still think that's the right move, because you protected your capital on the downside versus the other way around. By keeping that stop loss way down here at 10%, you allow that to pull all the way back.
Yeah. I have used almost 5% in the past when I added to the up to a 20% position.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've used 4.89 or something, like close to 5.
Yeah.
Just like you said, to protect it a bit. But initially, I got into this stock. Let me check here. It was a while ago.
I'm just saying, if you can keep it tight and then you can keep, I mean, even put a trailing on or something, just because, if this had gone up to 333 and then it pulled back 5% from there, 10% would be 33 cents. So that's like 16 cents. You would have got out at 314.
Yeah. But I think I should have done that. And I think also the mistake, it's so easy to sit here now, but at 304, I was about to sell, even the entire position, and that everything would have been, I wouldn't lose the extra percentage then on the next day.
Yeah, or like you were saying too, that's not a bad idea to do it that way either. So it's up to 330, right? At some point during the day, and you're kind of keeping an eye on it. Move your stop loss up to the point that you bought that second amount. So then that way, like that amount's break even no matter what, and the first amount's protected.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, like, for instance, let's say we're in this move way back here in April, right? Now, I'm not saying this is an easy one to catch and buy, but let's just say you happen to buy on this 16th when it went up 83% in a day, right? Like, let's say somewhere in here you get in at like 66 cents. Once again, I know this is all hypothetical, but let's say you got in there, and as it moves up, you keep adding that, 10% or 5% at every 10% up, whatever you're doing. If you just keep setting that stop loss like 5% below those adds, every time it stacks up, there's a chance you're able to make it to that next level. And I'm not saying you're going to capture this whole move, but if you capture like a chunk of this, even if you capture like a 30% of it with 20% of your portfolio, you get that in a day. And even if it pulls back midday and you get stopped out, you still get some of that move. And I think that's the right way to play this kind of crazy like stocks, because the ADR on something like this is going to be crazy in that day. It's going to be going up and down so much percent, you know, like the chances of you staying in all day is pretty low. I mean, you could just buy in the morning and hold it all day and hope. But you have to think, like, these days are super rare. So how are you going to focus when you get in on these days? I think the best thing you can do is capture any of the move you can.
Yeah.
You know, and by protecting your risk and keeping that stop loss a little tighter as you add positions, even if it does pull back and hit your stop, you basically take it there. And let's say 20% your full size position, like that's what your max is. You know, set that stop loss, like you said, like 5% or at, even if you had it at the 10-day moving average. But once it gets so far above that, move it up to break even. And then keep trailing it with something that makes sense, you know, even if it's like 5 or 10% from whatever the high is currently. That way you're going to capture a big chunk of that move. And if you can do that for a lot of these stocks on those days, you're going to make really solid returns here and there.
Yeah. No, I think you're spot on. And I think this comes down to my mindset at the time there. I thought more about the gains than to protect the downside, you know?
Yeah.
Which was easy to do because I just had added to the 20% and it went up. And then I had to do something. I wasn't at the computer, you know? So I couldn't sit and check it regularly because I was very busy. And then I come home and then it has pulled back a little bit, you know, and I just thought like, oh no, I want the gains instead of protecting the downside even more tight than what I ended up doing.
Right.
So
I had speed read Livermore again this week.
Yeah.
And I just remember him at the one point where he's talking about his pyramiding, because he did like quarters of his position or whatever. Yeah. But he said he would keep that stop loss pretty tight. And like it just makes so much sense to me, because it's almost, I see why people say it's like a game. Because on these days where it's going up, you're not going to nail these very often, especially with tight stop losses. But if it truly is a stock that's just rocketing up and you're watching it and you're adding each time it's going up that 5 or 10% wherever you want to add, and you keep that stop loss just behind it, so each position you add is kind of secured, really and cushioned by the first one. If you get stopped out, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. You're still going to make a small profit. Great. Another good trade because it's a profit. But every once in a while, you're going to hit that jackpot one. You're going to make it where you get that full position in. It doesn't trigger your stop. And then you can trail it with a little bit larger of a stop as it really pulls away. And, and like you said, imagine you get a 20% position. And obviously you can't capture the full 80%. But let's say you captured 50%. A 20% position up 50% in a day is going to, I mean, that's a full market return in hours, you know, for most people.
That would be very, very good, right?
So like you only need to do that here and there, and you're going to be fine. So I just had this mentality that like instead of like, you know, trying to play this long game where like I get in here and I have a large stop loss and I'm waiting, and you know sometimes I'm getting stopped out for the full amount, which hits you, you know, a little bit harder every time, even though it's small positions. You know, why not just take the risk, get in, see if you can catch a move, and if not, you're out. Who cares? You move on to the next one.
Tight. And I saw an interview again on Trader Lion with a woman called Linda. I don't remember her last name, but
she's one of the market wizards, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So she was a bit of like old school style, but she was fantastic, and she said similar things. Like she has learned to just laugh when she sees stuff like this that we're talking about. Like you sell out, and then 3 days later the stock is up 30%. You know, and it's just gonna happen so many times. Like you said, if you get stopped out, okay, at least you protected the downside, right? Yeah. And then if you were right, but just your timing was wrong, and next day is up 30%, she was saying like, all I can do is laugh, because you have to have that mindset, like, okay, on to the next one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, my point being here too is like there's a pretty small amount of like stocks that I'm really looking at. Like if you just go to like a 3-month high, like let's go to a 3-month high one here. And let's just look for stuff that's up in 60 days. Let's look for stuff that's up 4 times in 60 days.
Yeah.
So really fast moving stocks. You know, there's 24 entries in here. And all these names, I guarantee you, some of these are like one-off ones, but you're going to see these names keep popping up over and over and over because now this one's a poor example, but like, you know, some of these stuff that have these big moves like this, and I know this is IPO'd, so it's not like the best setup or anything like that, but these are the same kind of stocks that like you kind of start to keep on your radar. This one's maybe a little bit better of an example. It's very stair-steppy. You know, huge move on here. It moves for a while, starts to consolidate right at the, I mean, this is a very clean, you know, chart to me right here. And you get some nice breakouts. And look at this. Like on these days, you're probably going to get in and get stopped out on this day somewhere. That's okay.
Yeah.
You know, probably not. Maybe you get in on one of these days, same thing. Then on this day though, if you keep this thing on your radar and you see that this thing it's got volume on this day, which means as soon as you see one of these volume spikes, I feel like you should be focusing on this stock. You know, it's consolidating. It's got a big move that looked like it was about to break out. You know, everything starts moving in the right direction now. So now you're with the trend. One of these days, there's a chance it breaks out. So this is why like Qualamagi and all these guys say like, you know, you just kind of keep an eye on these things and keep these in a watch list because, or even if you just remember the ticker, like if you're screening midday and this ticker pops up again, you're like, oh, you know, this one's moving again. I was just in this one. You know, and now you can capture some of this huge move. And like I said, you don't need to capture the whole thing, but this moves almost 100% in 3 days.
Yeah, and it's so quick, right?
And like I said, if you're capturing 50% of that move, it's a huge return on the portfolio, even with small positions.
Yeah. And you see Qualamagi, he has his charts full of notes, right? So he takes everything. He does a thorough job to update himself very quickly on what he's thinking and all that stuff.
Right.
I haven't done that so far, but I'm very like selective of what to put on the watch list and move things around and kick things out and add things in. I do that every day now and mix, you know. All of a sudden my watch lists, some of my lists are a scan in itself, you know.
Right. And you know, even on this one, say you had you gotten in and gotten stopped out, even if you've taken a loss, like let's say your loss is set at 0.25% of your portfolio, even if you took 2 of those here and then you capture this move, that's going to well offset itself.
Yeah.
But you need to be in these fast moving stocks that have a chance of breaking out and going up 100%. Like I think my big 2 things that I've realized in the last 2 weeks is really to heavily focus on volume and really focus on high ADR stocks, which I know that's not, but my point being is in the past, I had focused on like a larger spectrum of stocks because some of the higher ADR stuff, I just didn't have a good strategy of capturing it. Now I'm starting to realize how you can capture some of these bigger moves and things that are moving really fast and also not to take it the wrong way when it pulls back on you. It's not that you made a mistake. It's just the market wasn't in your favor. You know, don't worry about, you know, this is why it's called speculation. You know, if you're trading, you're speculating because there's really no way to know what's going on. I mean, it's almost impossible. You know, if you're an investor and you have, you know, you understand the fundamentals and you're more focused on the business itself, totally different ball game. There you can do a little bit more predicting, you know, and trying to figure that out. But when you're doing these quick moves like this, you know, better is another example here.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Moved up here, moved sideways for a little bit, and then you know, started to really take off. And right here, that's not super high ADR, so you might not have seen it in here. But as this rises up and gets into this, and now this isn't surfing the 10-day moving average. It's actually surfing the 5-day moving average, which not a lot of people have in there because most people don't use a Bollinger Band like I do. But my Bollinger Band is set at 5 days, and look how perfectly this follows that 5-day before it breaks out again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
you can
almost
argue
perfect.
It looks decent there too, a bit extended right now, but
yeah, well, I mean, trust me, this is a stock that should be on everyone's radar as it pulls back. Wait till it hits this 10-day or breaks through it. Wait at least maybe till the 20 catches up because this is a huge move. I mean, I'm not, it's going to take a little bit. You know, it's rare you see something get all the way up to $90 and pulls back. So, but my point being is somewhere in here on like September, I don't know, 19th or whatever the heck this is right here, you really start to see some volume coming in, and you really start to see all of a sudden these candles start escalating. If you're not thinking that this is a good move to get in on one of these days, you're missing out on the whole point of what's going on here. And I'm not saying this is a perfect stair step one, but on these ones, this should kind of scream that this is being bought.
Yeah.
And I know it's super easy in hindsight, but you just don't see that kind of volume start pouring into something, especially after it's made that long of a move.
Imagine catching this 25th of August. That was a pretty clear one too.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, yes, obviously on those days, very clear. But my point being is with the strategy of having the tight stop loss, let's say randomly on this day, I mean, this is essentially what a day trader would do. You hop in and you get in at like $35. You set your stop loss kind of tight, and it starts to move up right when you get in, you know, like an intraday chart maybe you're using, and you get in at the right time. If you keep tacking on, let's say that every time this moves up 10%, you're tacking on another 5% position, and you're just keeping that stop loss tight. Even if you capture some of this move on this day, like you should be in this, you know? And every once in a while, like I said, you're going to capture it at the right time, and you're going to capture a huge chunk of this move, and it's going to be literally, you know, a year's return in that day on one stock on a very small risk.
Yeah.
You know, if you're taking 5% position sizes or 10% and your stop loss is at 3 or 5%, it's a very small risk for what the possible reward is on these fast moving stocks with heavy volume and heavy ADR.
These are the ones that make Kulamagi outperform big time, right?
Yeah, and that's why he says it's very few. It's very few that really make a big difference, because I'm sure most of his stuff is either stopped out low or it's the profit's small, you know, whatever it is. But as you can build up, you know, you can build these up into bigger positions. And like I said, not all these are perfectly clean charts, but you can see the ones that really move. And you know, some of these are coming from really small dollar values. So, you know, this isn't popping up on my radar. I'm not looking at something that's 16 cents.
But I saw ONDS was in this list somewhere. And that has been a stock I have never been able, there you go.
Yeah, no,
never been able to
on Thursday,
get in.
You called it. You should have bought. You called it.
Yeah.
You texted me right when it looked good. It was only up, I think, like 2% or something when you texted me. I was like, and that's the only reason I didn't look at it yet, because I'm like, I needed to move a little bit more. And once I looked back, it was already up like 20%. And I was like, oh damn, yeah, I'm not trying it now.
I'm so annoyed because on Wednesday, 10th of September, I bought this and I got stopped out the same day. Yeah. And then the next day comes the big move. But and then from there it has just gone up, let me check. Has gone up 72%.
But that's why I keep saying the focus really should be on these fast-moving stocks, because even this one here, it breaks out this day and fails, but that doesn't mean stop looking at it. Like now this ticker should be on your radar, because it's trying. Remember how so many people say it's like that volleyball that you're trying to keep underwater and it just keeps trying to come up?
Yeah.
Like these little tickers where you know you're seeing it explode up but comes back. Yeah, it failed, but that's showing you it's trying to move up. You know, there's a lot of buying pressure. And yeah, there's just enough sellers here that it's bringing, you know, the people coming out of this are just deciding, okay, this is a big enough move. I'm going to sell out on this day and get out. They're taking their gains right there. But now all those guys are gone. The momentum dies a little bit the next few days because everyone's like, oh, it collapsed. You know, it's not working. You know, all these people who didn't sell on this day are depressed and getting out. And then boom, all of a sudden that buying's there again and it's right back up.
Yeah. No, I this one opposite to AREC, I've kept a close eye on. I just couldn't catch it. You know?
No, and trust me, it's gonna happen. It's always easier in hindsight, but
But the volume coming in here is amazing, and you know, I have those ants that David Ryan is talking about. There's some criteria to them, but they mark on my chart above the bar when it's like fitting the criteria, which kind of means that this is obvious that some big institution is buying into this one.
Nice.
And you just gotta love the volume coming in here, all up until yesterday, you know.
Yeah, and to be honest, one thing that's it kind of sucks on stock charts is if I'm looking at this in the day. I remember looking and the volume was like the candle was like down here, so it was really hard to determine on
Yeah.
volume quite where it was at. I think their
Yeah.
information is laggard for volume because
I think TradingView is the same because
Yeah.
that is very annoying. I'm trying to pay attention to the volume, and then all of a sudden it updates, and it goes from like 5 in RVol to 50. You know.
yeah, no, I looked at it twice that day, and the first time I looked, it was literally like a speck down here. The second time I looked, it was
Yeah.
around here, and then the third time I looked, it was like at the top, and I'm like, whoa, what the hell? So
Yeah.
I can't go on that. I guess I just need to remember, and this is why I said, like if you're looking for these things in your screener, have something that checks to make sure that the volume's over a certain amount. Because if it's already over a
Yeah.
certain amount, that's a huge sign that there's a lot of buying right now.
Yeah. And I figure out, I don't know if anyone else watching our streams are using TradingView, but I figured out that I can make a watch list from my watch list, and then you can sort in a column by itself on R volume, you know, which then it's what I have found in TradingView is that sometimes that updates a bit quicker than what I see in the chart. So I can just track the number there, and sometimes it says like, oh, the RVol is actually quite a bit higher than what you see in the volume bars here.
Gotcha.
So I don't know why it is like that, but that's one thing I found in TradingView.
Yeah, no, I just I like I said, I got to stop relying on here because I'm already screening for, like, let's say 2 times its relative volume over the past 20 days or however I want to do it, right?
Yeah.
And like something like this popped up and it wasn't up much, and it should have been a red sign. Like, it's already got a shitload of buying, and it's just the price hasn't skyrocketed yet. Like, they're buying up all the liquidity right now. It should have been a red flag. Like, hey, this is a buy. It looks like it's breaking out, and there's a ton of volume.
It's actually exactly what you want, right?
Yes, it hasn't exploded yet, and it's telling me there's a ton of volume. So this is why I said it's good to just have reflection, because like next time I see that, I'm probably going to take a position because this is the other thing too. I'm taking 2.5% positions. Who cares if it doesn't work out?
No, true.
A 2.5 position with like a 5% stop loss, that is nothing. It's nothing. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So in hindsight,
this one has been. Maybe another nemesis of mine is starting to form here.
Yeah, right.
So I can never catch it.
And speaking
How
of
is
other
Amy, by the
nemesis,
way?
I didn't stay in. I guess I caught this whole move on UAMI, so I'm pretty happy. But
there you go.
I didn't catch this one, which I'm not going to argue that was the wrong thing not to get in just yet.
Yeah.
I know it was a 20% move this day, so I'm not saying that's not a great move, but it's
that
still looks a
that
little early
gapped
to
up
me.
a little bit too on that day.
I feel like I want this to consolidate a little bit more before I look at this one.
Yeah.
Like in here, this to me looked super obvious.
Yeah, I agree.
But man, I mean, look at that volume too. But there is really good volume buying here. Although it's going down now, which makes me think that we're on the back side of this move, not going into a new move.
Yeah, it did pull back a little bit on Friday.
You know what I mean? But once
But
again,
that
this
was
looks
also-
like one of those stocks that's trying to push up,
Yeah, because the entire market pulled back in the middle of the day there, so that can only be like that's the reason that UAMI pulled back also a little bit, and then comes Monday and will fly up again.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are like the little, like I said, nuance type things I'm focusing on. That I noticed my hit rate's definitely going up. I'm in all kinds of stocks that are moving big amounts. Now I do get stopped on them. Don't get me wrong. It's not like everyone's successful. But
No.
I'm capturing one or two. In the past few days, I think it was ANRO. I captured a big chunk of this move yesterday.
Yeah, that was nice.
I mean,
Yeah.
I say big. It was probably like 20% of it I captured,
Yeah.
and I think I had managed to get up to like 7.5%. So I was just adding 2.5%, as it was going up. And, you know, I got stopped out at some point, but I caught some of this move. So, and granted, you know, I'm saying, I don't know exactly what I caught because this went up 56% by end of day, but at one point it was up to $8.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could have been more than that. I don't even know.
But do you see the name of this stock then?
Oh yeah, I know. I was laughing at it too when I saw it. It was like another ALTO.
Yeah.
Hey, I know
hey, Max.
you get in and out of ALTO. I know that.
Yeah, I would not take it just because of the name.
But
Hey,
this
I saw
volume
you-
was like ridiculous, and this thing was
Yeah,
moving
that-
quick. So I just took that chance and got in. And
Yeah.
I got in. It was like the very first stock that appeared on my screener. So I think at the
Okay.
time it was already up
So
like,
good.
I don't know, 17 or 18%. So
Yeah.
in the past, I would have been hesitant to get in on that. But now I'm under the impression like, and you know how like when you look at the stock that's really moving, in the first 10 minutes, it skyrockets. So if you don't
Yeah.
hop in those first 10 minutes, like it's going to be up 30, 40%, you know, by the time you start
Yeah.
looking at it.
Which is why I find sometimes I have a watch list, you know, and then a couple of them, let's say 3, 4 are moving like, I want to buy these. You may not be able to catch all 4, you know, because it goes so far.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like, you know, it's part of the, you're going to get lucky, you know, or
Yeah.
unlucky
Yeah.
at times. And it is what it is.
Hey, Dane, Max is in the chat here. Hey, are you saying, hey guys, ANRO I was in as well, and then net cash biotech. Nice, nice, Max. Did you catch the entire move?
Which one, AREC?
No, ANRO.
Oh, yeah. How much did you capture, man?
And are you still in it, Max? That would be
Yeah, if you
interesting
just
to
held
hear,
it,
because
I mean, a great hold.
yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of the counter side of it. You know, as you get more and more into serious swing trading, you know, I'm starting to think the right approach to this is to treat every position essentially like a day trade with a tight stop. And as I work into a bigger position, you know, or closer to a full position, start to loosen that stop loss a little bit. So that way, if it turns into a swing trade, I can capture like a multi-day big move. Now, it's tough. It's tough to say that that's what's going to happen. But that would be obviously the goal. Because, man, if you can get in, like you said, like a 20, 25% position size on one of these names and let it run for a little bit, it can really take off.
Max is saying, no, I have to look again. I was in for 2 months or something and sold too early. Didn't catch the huge move. Okay, Max.
Oh, I got you.
But was this a value play for you then? Because you say they have the cash, or did you like the fundamentals? He's saying, but took like 80% or something on it. I got to check my trade history. I don't have it in my head. Okay. 80% is still nice though.
Yeah, I was going to say that's it. I'm assuming he either came in off the bottom here or out of this. I mean, this is really consolidated right there.
Yeah. He liked the cash position they had.
Yeah, and
So,
I mean, that's a simple one.
like-
You know, a company's got a bunch of cash. The chance of them going bankrupt anytime soon is low, and the chance of them doing something with the cash is positive. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's one of the things from our deep value days. It doesn't take a genius to realize someone's sitting on a nice balance sheet. Like, it's better than a shit balance sheet, you know, where they're in debt and they're trying to, like, you know, pull everything out of their ass to just keep their financing going.
Yeah. Remember that, you heard it here. A good balance sheet is better than a bad balance sheet.
Yep, facts. Well, I mean, you got to think too. The other thing is just having cash on. The chance of you getting like a reverse split or them having to go for, you know, taking out, you know, some kind of debt, it's just lower. Like they're already sitting on cash. They don't need a ton of cash right now. You know, you start to get into a company where their cash is starting to get questionable and they're starting to run out, you know, and just to keep operations going, they're going to have to get cash from somewhere. Hint, BNED, not a good one to be in at that time.
Yeah.
You know,
Max is saying, when I look at SSRM, I could cry because I sold so early. Max, I'm a little bit the same. I got my move. I was happy with it, but oh my God, it has just kept going.
Yeah, well, this is a long hold though. I mean,
yeah, but the thesis has probably material. I'm not checked the updates, but I assume the next move is a good earnings report, because I saw they had a good earnings report, and I guess just like the Turkey situation is about to take care of itself, you know.
Well,
I
you got that going on, and then the backdrop of just gold and miners doing extremely
yeah,
well.
yeah,
The whole sector's
but
doing
the
well.
yeah, but I take that to like the thesis what we talked about on the streams. We were correct on this one, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This you nailed this one. You were right. I
Yeah,
mean, you bought it at the lows too.
yeah, 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 yeah.
This
I
was
got
this
a
was
very
this
good
was a
one.
good deep value play for sure. And
Yeah,
you know, looking back, I agree with you. It was very obvious that that was a one-off event, and I know it was a terrible tragedy. Don't get me wrong. You know, I feel for anybody who was involved in that, but
yeah.
you know, sadly from a investor's perspective, that's when you buy.
Yeah, it's like I totally agree, and I don't know. I don't want to talk too much about ethics and stuff about investing because it's very hard. I've just come to the conclusion that it's very hard to draw a line somewhere because I feel like there's so many companies that you can argue that you shouldn't invest in because of some ethical issues.
Yeah, I just want to pull up SSRM real quick.
Yeah.
Now that we're talking a little deep value, we'll get the old fundamental sheets going here. See what's
Sometimes I
going on
miss
here.
it. Yeah.
Just a warning, I have not gone through the background sheets and updated, so some of these metrics on the side here could be real off. Don't go by those.
Yeah.
But the actual numbers in here in this center section here should be all correct. Once that's okay, there we go.
You know copy, Dane?
Yeah, everything looks good. Everything's up. Yeah, what about Cuppy?
He bought, according to Whale Wisdom and all that, he bought SSRM like just a few days before that mine collapsed,
Wait.
and then he sold it in the $8 era, something like that, I think. And then I remember he was in an interview saying that he just wanted to get rid of a lot of stuff in his portfolio because he didn't want the extra stress because it was a bit uncertain times and stuff like that. SSRM was one of those plays, I guess. But that's just like, you know, copy. He's a fantastic investor.
Well, and I would argue that if that mine collapse didn't happen, can I do 3 years here? If you look at 3 years, there was a chance that this wasn't a downplay just because kind of like, you know, miners and all that had pulled back. But, you know, it wouldn't have had this big collapse. It would have just kind of trickled along here. And then finally, as all of gold started moving up, you would have saw this move up. So
I agree. And
Copy was probably right. Just poor timing with the mine collapse.
Exactly. And I used that to lean on a lot in my conviction for the play, that he saw something at, you know, $9-10 for this company.
This is a 3-year weekly, by the way, in case anyone's wondering. Keep going.
And then, of course, when something like that happens, a lot of risk factors comes in. But I felt like the story, it was pretty clear what they had to do and how much it would cost them. You know, and I think the lawsuits they kind of deflected that into some third-party people. So I don't know, but I used that copy conviction when he bought around $10 there. I think that was what he did. I leaned heavily on that. I remember.
Yeah, and I mean,
which is a nice way to, when you track also other people's performance. You know, copy has proven time and again that he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and I remember I was listening to Ariel talk, and I can't remember his last name.
Hernandez.
But either way, you know, so he says, you know, he goes from essentially, like I was saying, like a day trade to a swing trade to a position trade, possibly. So on a stock like this, if you were going to do a position trade, so let's say you had bought it as a day trade and kind of held it through here. Maybe you trimmed on this, and then we're just holding through this period here, and had turned it a bit into a swing trade or even a position trade. You know, if you switch over and you take kind of like the William O'Neill style, now you have your position in a stock like this, and let's say you use like the 20 moving average for the week as like your sellout period. I mean, you know, even way up here, you're still just holding this thing, and you know, now it's at $24, and this is up to 16 as your stop loss. And you know, if you had gotten in, you know, around 6, you're up you know, 150%. I mean, these are the ways that like you can evolve your process and you can let these things run without getting yourself killed.
I remember Roaring Kitty talked about how he practiced to add on the highs as well, you know?
Yeah, well, you know, Roaring Kitty, one of the very first things he made out is that he's a fundamental deep value investor, but uses technicals.
Who
And
uses the chart, and I assume that when he's started to talk about when he wants to add on the 52-week highs was when he started to use the technical side of this, you know?
yeah, and you know, one thing I'll say is, you know, he said he read O'Neill, and you know, he said he appreciated that side of technical trading. And the funny thing is, looking back, remember when GameStop was going up and everyone was like in the euphoric stage where they're like, "Oh my God, it's gonna break to new highs," and Roaring Kitty added, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, he added!" Like, you know, like that's so crazy. And it's like it isn't, because he was literally doing what traders do.
Yeah.
He was adding at all-time highs, you know, and he was already heavily cushioned. I mean, this guy bought, you know, options at the bottom, you know, of a massive play. And then he adds it, you know, a top, and I'm sure he's using some kind of stop loss. So even though RK is like, yeah, I'm not going to sell, I guarantee you he had something in there where he was going to sell if it got to a point.
Yeah.
And it just never triggered it, you know. But
Yeah.
looking back, it's all starting to click at what he was doing and why he nailed it. Which once again, you know, I mean, I wonder if he's taking almost the same path you and I did.
Maybe, but he also had the advantage in that time that he saw that he started to get some traction himself.
Right, but my point being is, you know, he said he'd been doing this for 10 years. He started his deep value, got to the point that he's like, the fundamentals don't always matter that much. You know, there's a lot more to things. And, you know, saying I have a huge focus now on technicals, and he uses William O'Neill.
Yeah. No, it's true. And he talked, you know, very warm about Burry, which we also know comes from a technical analysis background.
But just imagine if you took all the fundamental plays from the best deep value guys and from the best, you know, value guys in general, but you used it only to take technical trades.
Yeah.
I just think there's a huge niche there where you got so many traders who don't even want to look at fundamentals, and vice versa. I can't help but see that there's a huge, you know, spot there for alpha that people don't capitalize on.
Yeah. No, I agree. Max is saying, I'm still in Alto. Oh, are you, Max? Minus 30 now, but it seems bottoming out. I burnt my fingers with option selling the last month. Okay. I think fundamentals alone without catalyst is driving to nowhere. Exactly. That's kind of what we have seen also. But in terms of Alto, I don't know, man. I have added Alto to... I've added Alto to my watch list because I'm determined to get some of my money back by swing trading at some point. So I just want to get my revenge. But Alto, Max, I haven't upgraded myself on the story there. So I don't even know if Justin is in. I see he has made some tweets about ethanol lately. So I just assume that he... is still averaging down, actually, because he's quite a large owner there now, last time I checked. But yeah, sorry, I don't have so much to say anymore about Alto because I'm completely out from it. But yeah, I think we all got burnt on that stock.
Yeah, I still should have sold everything. I sold that 2/3 on there, which I'm happy I trimmed. I got lucky I trimmed that day when I did.
Yeah. No, that was terrible.
All right, what else?
I have a chart, Dane. If you go to METCB.
Yep.
Yeah, this one. I think it looks a little bit interesting to track in the coming days.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's riding that 10-day right now.
Yeah, and I think this is a coal thing, and coal has done really well lately.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've looked at the stock a couple times. I might have looked at it on this breakout on this day, but I didn't take it. Maybe I think it was probably up way too much at that point.
Yeah. I
But
think also I noticed something interesting when I prepared for the stream today. Like the last 2 days, if you look at the candles, they seem to like want to try to shake people out a little bit. You know, it has those big wicks down and then it pulls up again.
yeah,
So maybe if you see a breakout here on some volume, I keep it on my watch list. The ADR here is 5.16%, so not the highest, but it's a good amount, I think.
yeah, I'm looking for like at least 4 and higher. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not going under 4 anymore, and yeah,
No,
preferably
I'm
5.
actually started to cut out below 5 now in what I'm keeping in the lists.
Yeah, I don't want to go
So
too crazy high because number one, it just sends me a bunch of nonsense charts, like stuff that doesn't have good setups, you know.
yeah,
But you know, there is these ones, and this is why it's good just to pull up these charts and just to kind of get an idea, like get a feel for what this chart's doing, what the stock's doing.
yeah,
And
a little
granted,
bit.
remember, like when we're looking at charts, we're not talking fundamentals. Just looking at the chart.
Yeah, yeah. No, I saw this one and I kind of like it. Yeah. Right. I told you about Riot yesterday, but it also pulled back, and I know it's a bigger market cap. But what are your thoughts about the chart?
See, now this is like what I was telling you before. So has the up move here, right? And then
Yeah.
it has number one, it has a day that pops without getting back. Now it finally breaks back down, breaks through it, and then starts to come up. 29th is the day I'm interested in it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, this is still part of this same move, in my opinion.
Yeah, just moving a little bit. This
So-
one had a pretty good report in end of July, so I think this can continue to move further up. I think because the volume is there also.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. That is the actual breakout here. But it wanted to go a bit higher on Friday, but it ended up pulling back quite a bit, you know.
Yeah, I mean, but if you just look historically, it does the same thing almost every time. So, you know, a bit of a breakout here, breaks back down, breaks way down, and then comes up and goes through. Gets all the way up to here, breaks down, kind of trends sideways for a little bit. I know this doesn't quite break it, so not as clean, but breaks out again here. Then finally totally breaks down, comes through here, starts to rise up again. So I wouldn't call this a breakout. This is just it coming off the base. Which, you know, forming this cup and handle here, comes back down, breaks down through it, and then pops up.
And some solid support on the 50-day.
Yeah, and that 50-day, you know, it rides right through it. It does not. I mean, you can argue it's breaking through it, but it's also like one of the things I've thought is like, you know, let me just draw a line here. So, you know, you can argue this 50 days like cutting through these in half, but I almost can use that as a line because it looks like it's cutting these, but it keeps cutting them as it goes higher. And sure, like you could put a line there and say that's kind of the base of it, you know, so it's kind of that rising lows, you know, higher lows all the time. But I like that 50, the way it crosses through these, because it just keeps intersecting halfway almost until it starts to break above it, which just goes to show you it's pulling out from this area. And like I said, I'm not buying on this. This is like the bottom of a base. You know, I want it to come up a little bit before and get this more clean setup that I see here. But in the past, one of my issues would be is, you know, I'm buying on this day here. You know, pulls back here a little bit, comes up, and then it has this big day here. These are days where normally in the past I would have looked to buy these things because I'm thinking, okay, it's breaking out again. I really want to see it pull back a little bit more. I want that 10-day closer. I want it to pull back a little bit more. And then somewhere on one of these days, these are the days I'm interested. It's already really broken back. This one's a little bit clearer. So it makes this day seem a little bit more obvious up here.
Yeah.
Just that way you're not getting into a bunch of these names and always taking those stop losses every time it does this and then pulls back and then you're waiting, or you get in like 3 or 4 times. Because the other thing too, if you get in on this, a couple times before it comes down and then bombs back up, when it actually starts to come up on this day right here, it's like nerve-wracking to do it because you've already gotten stopped out like 2 or 3 times on the name, and like you're like, this one never works. And it's not that it doesn't work. It's you're not actually getting in on the breakout. You're getting in on, false breakouts. And one of the ways to kind of avoid that is let there be a real pullback.
Yeah. And this is kind of where I've done it for quite some time now, but started to use the ATR percentage above the 50-day moving average. And I went back and looked at, I think almost 100 setups from Kulamagi that he rated, he has his rating system, and I just plotted in the data in a sheet, and I just tracked the ATR percentage above the 50-day moving average. And he doesn't talk about it, but he talks about stocks being extended and stuff like that. But all of those setups, except 5 of them or something, were pretty close to the 50-day moving average when he entered them, and pretty extended from it when he talked about him trimming or selling, on day 3 to 5. So I've started to use that as a guideline, which is kind of similar to what you're talking about now, that you want them to pull a bit further back before the actual breakout comes, because then you're going to be closer to the 50-day in terms of ATR percentage.
Right. No, yeah. I mean, these are why these guys, like they see the nuance of the chart. They know when to go in, because we keep talking about it's all just odds. And if you can not go into a stock just a few more times than you would have in the past, you wait, you're just a little bit more patient because the setup's just not quite what you want. Where, like I said, and it just takes time. It takes time of going in and on these things and realizing like, I got stopped out again. Like, why didn't this one work? And then every time you see the ones that are working, really focus on what was going on before there.
Yeah. All the details, as much as you can find and see if you can see similarities. Max is saying often it's faking out before going to the breakout. Yeah, it does happen a lot, right?
Yeah, well, and the thing is you have to remember, there's a bunch of people that got in, for instance, on September 9th here. They've wrote it up, and it does a little bit of a pullback, but they don't sell here. And then on this day, it does that climactic jump where just that day it just skyrockets off. Everybody else thinks it's breaking out again. And it's not that it's breaking out again. You're buying at the very end of a move.
Yeah.
These are all the people who are tricked, and you're buying at the very top of the move. And all these guys now are selling out on this day, and you watch that hardcore pullback from that. So it's knowing that is the evolution of the trend. Is at one point, there's a day where everyone's going to buy and a bunch of people from before are going to be getting out, because there's always got to be sellers. And it just kind of overwhelms it for a second. But then, it doesn't mean the institution still doesn't want to buy it. So then the institution sees, okay, it's down below the 10. This is probably the cheapest. I'll get it for a little while. I'm going to take more here. And then boom, right back up it goes.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so important to try and find the ones that have institutional buying, which comes from one of 2 forms. Either there's a ton of volume, or it usually is at some kind of pullback to some kind of average where they're going to buy because, either they're going to, they're happy to buy at that price or whatever the reasoning is.
Yeah. This week for me, I don't know if we didn't speak about plug yet, right?
No, I had captured part of the move on plug, but this was plug. This is one of the ones that pulled back. I let pull back so much. It was so stupid of me.
Yeah. No, I took it on Wednesday and has performed really well for me.
I believe I bought it here on the 18th.
Let me check.
And
okay.
I was adding to it, and then on this day, I remember this is right somewhere in here is where that was the point where, remember I said I should sell everything?
Yeah, exactly.
That's where I was right there with plug and oh, what was the other? I had two stocks that were just killing it at the time, and you know, had brought
Yeah.
my whole portfolio. Each one had brought my portfolio up like almost over 1% themselves.
Yeah.
And then it pulled back to here, and Plug pulled back and never really came back that day. The other one pulled back up, and I was, you know, just in my head, I was like, oh my god, I really should sell here, and of
Yeah.
course didn't. And
No.
you know, it just goes to show that, you know, if I had just kept a tighter stop loss on these, instead I'm keeping a really loose stop loss, and you know, ended up pulling back, and I think I sold either at the end of the day or maybe even on this day. I don't remember which one it was, but lost, you know, a huge chunk of it.
Yeah. I sold into strength yesterday, half of the position,
Very nice.
and then my
Tuesday.
stop is now at it's a little bit above the 50-day moving average here, but I'm just gonna watch where this is going. I think there's a short squeeze thesis as well. I don't. That was my thinking when I entered this. I figured it out later, but there's a pretty heavy short interest in this, 32% or something. But right now it looks very extended. So I assume if there still are shorts in it, which I think it is, I assume that this can come down heavy at someday soon also, you know.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. I thought it showed the short interest on here, but maybe not.
I think in Wall Street Journal, it says 32.53% of the float is shorted.
Yeah, which is probably. I mean, this had really pulled back. Plug got down to 69 cents, and this was a big stock. I mean, I remember you go back.
Yeah.
This was at $60.
But it has proven in the past that it can have gigantic moves, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, trust me. Plug's one of those names. I just have to see it, and I'm interested. You know.
Yeah.
Which, you know, the other thing too is like that's like a good sign in of itself, because if it's like one of those names that you just have to see, you know, everybody else is thinking the same thing when this starts to move.
Yeah,
Like,
and I
oh,
see there's
Plug,
a
big
lot
mover.
of. Yeah, exactly. Another one I took this week was Rocket Lab, actually, a bit of a higher market cap, but this one has worked also well for me. I bought it on Thursday at 50.07.
Looks pretty good. Tiptoeing on the 50, 10 and 20
Yeah.
is perfect.
Yeah.
What's
And
the
this
ADR
also
on
has
this?
volume. Huh?
What's the ADR on this?
The ADR is 6.17 from what I have.
That seems crazy to me. It's 6.17.
Yeah. I'm using 20-day to calculate it.
Yeah.
But there are some news now that the founder, he's showed off some new launch system or something like that. So there's a lot of momentum in this stock right now, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big stock. I mean, for it to have this kind of buying, this is institutional. This is $27 billion.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's not retail.
No. And then yesterday I took AXTI, which also did very well, but then pulled back, and it scares me a little bit, but because I can see it has done that a few times. And I didn't notice when I bought, but I bought this one a bit extended in terms of the rules I'm following right now. So I'm not as confident in this position, but so far I managed to be up enough to raise the stop to break even. So it's all good from here.
I kind of still like this, just that heavy volume on Friday, and the fact that it had broken through the 10-day here.
Yeah. And you can also argue, like Tuesday 23 of September and 29 of September, it wants to go higher, but it can't. And then maybe now it's going to happen, you know? So,
yeah, I will say I agree it's extended, so this might fizzle out.
Yeah, it is.
But, or it just might take a while.
Yeah. My stop is a break even. So it's, unless it, you know, jumps beneath it, it's going to be fine.
Because also,
Um,
if you look down here, like, you know, you have like this rise up here, it pulls back, and then tries to again, and then just,
yeah,
you know, before it breaks back down, and you know, you're talking
yeah,
after a big move
true.
right there.
And then it comes down into the 50-day, which is far away from where it is right now, you know.
Right, and I mean, and you,
No.
I mean, you don't have to worry about that as long as you have a stop on. You're not gonna take that
Yeah,
big hit, but you know,
no,
it might pull all the way back to there.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't notice that was a bit extended, but yeah, usually I don't like to buy as extended as this, but let's see. Maybe it will work. Max is saying Kulamagi was also watching fundamental earnings more than he was claiming, I think. Many charts had fundamental comments on it. Yeah, he definitely was tracking. He said that the Bill O'Neill book is the best book he has ever read, and that is written on investing. And, you know, the canceling model with the fundamentals are a big part of that.
Yeah.
So I also think that Kulamagi stayed on top of things when it comes to the fundamentals. Maybe not as thoroughly as Roaring Kitty, because two different styles, but he definitely pays a lot of attention to it.
Well, I think the big difference between what Qualamagi's doing and what RK is doing is in the terms of, you know, one's more Q's using more as like a growth, like as his background. Like he's looking at growth stocks where the earnings and the narrative are outperforming. Where RK was the exact opposite. He's using value, like true deep value. He's looking for stuff that looks like it's kind of dead. And, you know, he's trying to get in way down there and work its way all the way up. Which, you know, so he's more focused on stuff that looks like it's about to go bankrupt, stuff that, you know, is in turnaround phase. Where Q's looking at stuff that he's aligned right with the institutions, you know. But you get to a certain size, you kind of have to, unless you're just a nut like RK and you buy hundreds of millions of dollars of options. That's a different kind of balls, but yeah. I mean, I can
That
see
works
both
well too.
strategies working if you really are confident in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the only other thing I haven't really gone over too much is I just had a few names that I'm in, so I'm just gonna move this over here so I can see it as I go through these charts. But ACIU I had taken. This had a great day. This is my largest position right now because I had taken another chunk into it.
Nice.
I did not get into it though on the second. I got into it yesterday, so. But
Okay.
had a big day, really, really strong volume.
How large is the largest position then, with your strategy now?
This is only it's only at 5%. I've only taken a second leg to it essentially.
Okay. Yeah.
But the first part of the position's over 10%. So I mean, if you average it together, I don't know exactly what I'm up right now, but and once again, I keep the stop loss kind of tight, so
Yeah.
I don't have to worry. Even if it pulls back, it's a profit. Basically, besides my initial leg now, every leg is profitable. So if I'm adding to it, it's guaranteed profit. That's just how I have it set up, so I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, which feels very nice, right? And that's Mark Minervini and also Ariel Hernandez. They talk about improving your worst case scenario all the time, right? And it's such a huge part of this, I think.
Yeah, it
So
really
like,
is. You know,
as soon as you can protect the downside and improve the scenario where the stock turns against you.
I look at a chart like this, right? And there's so many times where there's like random days, like this moved up 9% this day. And on a 9% day, if you get in even here, you know, your downside should be relatively limited. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying this is when you go in on the stock. You know, I'm just saying even if you were to just randomly guess on what days to go in on stocks, and you're simply using the idea that I want it to have decent volume and I want it to be making a move, if you just use that and you kept your stop loss tight, you should almost always be making cash. Even if it's really small amounts, your losses should be like, incrementally small compared to how often you're making cash on the positive side. And like I said, originally my strategy, it looked like it was going to outperform the market by about double, which, don't get me wrong, that's huge. But I'm not looking for that. I'm looking to really outperform. I really, at this point, like, why not go to be one of the best at this?
Yeah.
And, now you're doing all that on top of the fact you're catching breakouts. If I can catch some of these breakouts, and keep my stop losses tight and pyramid into these things as they go up, you should be able to be making a percent on some of these stocks here and there every week. And I'm talking one move. So the focus is just kind of switched to that. And I'm going to be protecting the downside no matter what by tighter stop losses as these things move up. And like I said, I'm not going to capture the whole move all the time now. I'm not going to capture, even this, when it moves up 27%, it's a solid chance I get stopped out on this somewhere in here, just because I'm adding a little bit quicker and I'm keeping that stop loss tight. But
do you still have a limit on how much a stock can have moved already in percentage before you lose interest to take it on the day?
It's not a hard stop. I'm not saying there's like a specific number, but like, this isn't a great example. What's something that gapped up yesterday? DFLY, I caught a big chunk of this move.
Yeah.
And this was a stock that had, I think I bought this, I can't remember if it was Thursday or Friday I did this one. It must have been Friday, because I wouldn't have bought this much under $1 here. Or maybe I did buy it here and I just captured some of this move here. I can't remember what it was. But it was probably up 40% and I still got in.
Yeah, okay.
So, it's not necessarily the percent in. It's more if it's just like some crazy gap. Like if I go in and I open up the chart and something's up like 80% and it's gapped, like let's say it was, trending down here and the first candle's like up here, I'm going to be very hesitant to get in on that. It's just way, way too much.
Yeah.
But like I said, if my percentage for a stop loss is like 0.1% of a position of my portfolio, I really don't care if it's up 40% and I try and get in. I'm not scared to take that at that point. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I get stopped out immediately. I really don't care. But this is the kind of stock, something that's moving 70-some% in a day, where you're going to be able to get in on this. And the market cap right now is at 115. But let's say you were looking at it on this day where it's around $1. That still means the market cap to me is like 60 million. It's really hard for someone to manipulate that on that basis alone. Now, if it had just gotten up and it's just reaching 15 million or 20 million, I'm not going in on those ones. That's way too small. Yeah. That means that when the move started, it was like $7 million market cap. Way too small.
So you just filter on that instead of things like average dollar volume and stuff like that?
Yeah, I would say my filter for these ones that are really gapping and kind of going crazy is how much did it gap up initially? Like, am I getting in and it only has like 50%? If it's already gapped up 50% or more, somewhere in that range, and it could really pull back. I just don't know what it's doing. I'm going to be a little bit more hesitant to get on that, especially like if it's one of those stocks that were like super flat for a long time and just popped.
Yeah.
Those are ones that, like, I don't know, it's a random buy. It's probably one buyer, especially with small market caps. But as the market cap increases, we're talking $80 million came in, or no, more like $60 million came in yesterday. I highly doubt that's one person. I highly doubt that's like someone who could sell out immediately. Now, don't get me wrong, this is going to get choppy. I mean, this is two huge moves in 2 days. It's not going to not be all over the place. Your ADR on this is going to be crazy. But you get my point of that doesn't necessarily mean I'll shy away from this.
Yeah. I I went through some of my lists the other day, and I saw a couple of because I made like a fast mover list now.
Mm-hmm.
And one I found has if you look up Kala, Kala.
Yeah. Oof.
Look at this one. I don't know what they had some news. It's a biotech, right? So you can guess what happened.
Yep.
But that was like an insane high ADR. So I after this move, I kick it out, of course.
Yeah, and you know, Kala, this is a great example that, you know, my point being is I'm always trying to avoid that, you know, because there's nothing
Yeah.
you can do about an overnight gap. If you're in a
But it
stock,
looks good on some points on the run up before there.
oh, there's tons of breakouts in this chart. I
Yeah.
mean, there's tons of
Yeah.
good examples of where you could got in and you could ride this. But also,
Yeah.
too, with that being said, if I keep a tight stop loss on something like this, by the time it gets up to here and it's pulling back, you know, if this had reached 2060 and made it all the way back to 1739, I guarantee you I got stopped out on that. Even if,
Yeah.
let's say I had taken a huge position and rode this up, you know, let's say it had got up to 25% or 30% of my portfolio in this. By the time
Yeah.
it pulls back, I'm going to be out. So hopefully, as it's doing this kind of thing sideways and there's like really bad news that comes out, I'm out of it before it even happens. Now, I know that doesn't always happen, but, you know, anything is to try and avoid that kind of move.
Yeah.
And this is why a lot of the professionals say that, like, once you start to get up to like 30% position sizing, like, you shouldn't be holding that much overnight.
No, exactly.
Because you just never know. And, you know, let's say your account was at, let's say, $10 million and you got 30% of that account in one name. You can't take this hit. You can't take a $3 million
That is
hit, you know, overnight.
92% roughly on the first day, and I think it moved another 25% the next day down.
Yeah, you can't take that hit. So
You would be killed, right?
yeah, as your cash expands, you know, I would be really hesitant to let my position sizes get, I don't know, much larger than 20 or 25%. Maybe let it go to 30, but in that same day, I'm probably going to be stopped out because most likely, if I'm up 30% in a day, it's on a stock like ANRO or something like this where it's a one-day move and there's no way it's going to keep going. You know, it's going to pull back.
And that's
And
also
probably
like
at the end of the day,
just,
I'm just going to sell or at least trim it just to make sure it doesn't stay that large.
yeah, I was going to say, and that's the smart thing to do on like selling into strength, right? But the day before that big drop, I can use the replay function in TradingView, and what I have noticed is like some of my numbers get a bit stupid when I do, so I'm not sure how accurate this is. But at least what it says here is like the ADR on this one is almost 10%, but it's over 7 times its ATR percentage above the 50-day, which is normally an area where you probably should look at trimming only on that because it is a bit extended, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another point. Just like try to find things you add to your rules for when to take profits, and if you have trimmed the position when you said into strength there, and then maybe again when it gets a bit extended, you will survive better if you are caught in a fall like this. You know, it will still be damaging, but then you have taken off a lot of the profits already.
Yeah, like I said, my big thing too is like by making sure your stop loss is tight. I was kind of against this because, you know, I hated getting stopped out of things, but the focus is on the stocks that really work. It's going to just fly up and you're going to keep adding those positions and kind of keep that stop loss tight. And right there, that's all profit. So it doesn't really matter where it happens. It's you're playing it exactly how you should, and the market is providing you a winner. If this pulls back, I get out no matter what, somewhere towards the top because my stop loss is tight. So I don't have to worry about, you know, the market told me, okay, it's pulling back. Like, this is where you get out. I'm not selling because I think it's a good time to sell, or I'm selling into strength, or I'm so far from a distance. I'm selling because it pulled back, you know, and it's a tight stop loss. So it's already a big profit. So I don't care that it pulled back and I got stopped out. Mission success. You know what I mean? That's how I'm starting to look at it. You know, and every once in a while you're going to catch that USEG that in a day jumped up 200%. And if I'm adding into that, now sure, I know it's volatile and there's a chance I get stopped out. I don't capture that whole move. But the point being is, you just try and take advantage of as much of that move as possible. And as it stops you out, like you did what you did, you got what you got, and you move on to the next one. That's
Yeah,
essentially how you need to treat trading.
Yeah, that has to be the mentality. Just there's always going to be the next one, right?
Yeah, and there always is. I mean, I can point out like 30 examples in the last week that did this. And,
Yeah.
you only need to capture one or two to make the whole week,
Yeah.
you know?
By the way, I saw Kulamagi was tweeting a little bit again, and one tweet was about the next Market Wizard book.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So he he said like, "Oh boy" or something. So yeah, I can't wait to read his section in that one actually.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to go
Yeah.
from reading those books to becoming one.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you're gonna learn so many new things, but I think we mentioned it here in the past that what is that guy's name? Jack Schwager.
Mm-hmm.
He said that he will talk about his big drawdown, that he stopped streaming, and then there was some rumors that he had half the account or something, and I think he said that was true. So I hope you can hear something about his thoughts about how that happened and lessons from it.
Yeah, and no strategy works forever. And there's going to be down periods and good periods, and you can have a system that could work, let's say, for 2 or 3 years in a certain environment, and then the markets change, and if you continue doing that strategy without adjusting, you can get really hurt. Like I think as I do this more and more, my point being is I'm okay with capturing super small amounts and just keeping that loss ratio in terms of how much I'm losing very low. And there's going to be time periods where I'm probably not going to take many things just because nothing's moving, and that's fine. I'm not looking to try and to get into names just to get into them. And by keeping that stop loss tight, the winners will present themselves as they do, and I'll still make gains on those ones. And yeah, I'm not capturing full moves, but I think it's like detrimental to always be focused on, how could I have captured the most of this? And instead, how can I protect myself and capture the most of it? Like,
I saw some conversation on X on some guys I follow there, and he has written about some. I don't really have read exactly the strategy, but the point is that he goes from risking 1R to always, like we said earlier, to minimize that in steps.
mm-hmm.
And some guys were like thanking him because they had really read up on that strategy and just improving those numbers, going from 1R risk to, for example, 0.6, I think the number was.
Mm-hmm.
They said like it had fantastic results on the overall performance.
Yeah, I mean, the odds, it gets to a point where, I'm honing my system in terms of screening and knowing when to go in on names and kind of keeping an overall feel for the market, that kind of thing. And I'm going to be able to increase my hit rate to a certain degree at that point, That's why I do my market strength thing. It gives me an idea. And most of the days, I would say, when I'm looking at breakouts and things that looking back, I could have taken versus not taken, I find that it's just above 40% usually. Like it probably settles around 40% for hit rates. So if I'm doing really well, I bet I can get my hit rate around 40%. That's, I think that's very feasible to do. And don't get me wrong, there's times it drops all the way down to 20%. There's times it's way up to 80%. So there is days where everything's going to work out, and there's days where nothing's going to work out. But if you just think overall, I'm about a 40% hit rate based on those numbers. Well, what can you do with your batting average, knowing that that's your hit rate's about 40%? I know Minervini goes pretty in depth with this kind of thing, but it's important to know that, okay, if your hit rate's 40%, and I can keep my risk at, 0.25%, and on average, I can capture anywhere from, you know, above a quarter to well over a quarter, like we're talking 5-10 times that, that's where you really get solid returns, and that's where you can really outperform and consistently outperform, even in kind of sideways markets, you know, where things aren't necessarily going. I mean, don't get me wrong. In really down markets, you're not going to perform. It's going to be almost impossible. Go find another hobby. You know, or take a vacation if it's your full-time job.
That's when you start to read the books.
Yeah. Go back, you know, hone your process, get ready as the markets turn around, wait for that macro turnaround, that kind of thing. But
or short.
Yeah,
Go short.
yeah. I mean, actually, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You know, flip the script. I actually saw what's his name. He flips his charts. I don't remember how he did it, but he flips all his charts. So once he starts shorting, it's the same thing. It's just the reverse chart. So he just has everything inverted. So it still looks like it's breaking out, but it's actually going down. And I was like, that's kind of a cool way of looking at it. I never thought to he just flips all his charts upside down. And so once again, it still just looks like things are breaking out. It's just everything's selling off instead.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's a pretty cool idea.
In his world, he is always doing breakouts.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. If the markets are down, he flips the charts. If the markets are up, he has them right side up.
Yeah.
But no matter what, it's the same pattern whether it's going up or down. So I was like, that's a pretty good idea, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. Just make everything simple, like because you're used to train your eye to spot certain things, you know.
Right.
So that is the. It maybe sounds like it just a little bit funny or something like that, but it is smart, right?
Well, I'm just thinking, you know, it's like trying to use if you're right-handed and you're trying to use your left hand for certain things, you feel like you're just, even though you know what to do, it's just different enough that it's hard to do it at the same way you would. So if you flip the script, nothing changes on your eyes.
Yeah.
You know, your read of it is essentially the same. Some other names I'm in, just to go through. I had taken BFLY yesterday. Another one.
I forgot that stock.
This one, I thought this breakout looked solid enough. Really good volume. There's very few days it's even had that much volume.
Yeah.
So this is one I'm up a little bit on so far. 18% move. I know everything's kind of in you know, it's a little early. This is a little bit early of a breakout for it, but it had already had 2 moves off the bottom. So we'll see if it can hold up. You know, a lot of times it starts high the next day and breaks down. But this is a great example of, you know, once again, you had a tight stop loss. I've actually thought about this. So the morning of this day, so you have your stop loss set on this day, correct?
Yeah.
It's the next day and it opens up way up here. If the open is at 210, immediately adjust your stop loss based on the open of that day.
Yeah.
Because if it pulls back this day, I'm going to capture a big chunk of this move. And if it's a green day and it just goes up from here, great. But immediately change it on the opening of this day. I'm going to go through and look at the stuff I'm in and adjust my stop losses if something's up already. And that way,
like you said earlier, also if you are then stopped out, you can just track it and go in on the next setup.
Yeah, and like I said, if I can, let's say I bought in some point I don't know, let's say $1.70. You know, that's the first time I noticed it. Really good volume that day, and you know I end up getting out at like 205. That's a great move. You know. And sure, I didn't capture it way up here at 225, but like, I don't care. I caught enough of this. And then, you know, and now I don't care. I'm just waiting. And once again, another day, it really starts to show volume. You get in on this one. And, you know, you just try and play it as best you can.
Yeah.
So that's BFLY. Another one I got in was EGAN. And you'll start to see similarities between the stocks I'm taking. They're all pretty solid movers on the day I'm taking them. You know, I went through and I've been doing I used to take stuff around 4 or 5% up, and the hit rate you find when stuff's over like 5-6% is just way higher that it continues to move, especially on strong volume. So hint. This is another one. I really like this chart. Nice move up. moved sideways. It had a peak day, broke down. It's been bobbling around. And then finally, you see this really heavy volume coming in at this move here. So that's why I like the EGAN here. Everything's even moving in the right direction for this. It had tiptoed off the 20-day as well. So just a lot of good signs for me.
Yeah.
I took CDZI. I've actually been in this one for a little bit, but
This is one of the first stocks I added to my tracker sheet
right.
many years ago now.
well, here we are.
A utility, right?
Yeah, it's a water utility of all things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the fact that it had tapped way down here is what I liked.
Yeah.
Starting to look for that kind of candle on breakouts to try and don't get me wrong, this ended the day low, so it might be early.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is a 2.5% position. So I really, even though it started off as a way for me to kind of screen out and find things, a 2.5% position is also, it's kind of nice because you can keep your risk so low with those position sizes. And then if something really takes off and you keep adding to it, you can add pretty quick and build up to a full position. Then,
that would be
last
important.
one was, whoops, if I can spell, MTLS. A little bit less of a recent breakout, but I thought it looked good from this breakout here. It comes down. It looks like a pretty solid cup and handle here to me.
Yeah, it does.
It had just broken down through the 10-day and pushed out here. And it didn't end the day as super high, so there's definitely still a lot of resistance right here from this. But heavy volume, if it can break through this, looks good to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, this was just at $9.
It's not even a long time ago, no.
No, and I mean, it's already recovered from all this. So
yeah. Seems like a few bad earnings reports that caused that fall.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not saying that this is going to go back to $9 by any means, and it took a long time for it to get there anyways. I mean, this is a 4-month period it took to even get up there, and that was when it was at 5, you know. So I mean, it's back there now. But another bullish sign I would think is you know, last time it got to the 200-day moving average, collapsed, and this time it broke through it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping this isn't Monday.
No.
What it did on July 24th.
Yeah.
But once again, 2.5% position size. If it drops that much, you know, it's not going to kill me.
No.
You know, think about it. A 2.5% position size could drop 50%. It means my portfolio is only down like 1%. So even on those killers, it won't kill me.
You are protected pretty good.
Somewhat. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to be happy to start next week down 1%, but like, it's also not as depressing if you're down like a chunk of your portfolio, like 10% or something stupid.
Yeah, and another thing I guess you have mentioned before, but you are also allowed to take more positions.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too is, so when I'm screening and I see 5 or 6 charts show up and they all look pretty good, and I'm having a hard time on which one I want to pick, I can take 4 of them, you know, and see which ones work out. And it also too, you're putting your money into it. You're really looking into these charts a little bit more in depth. And when you just screen through, if you don't buy something, you don't really go back and like reflect on it a lot. If you owned it or you're owning it right now, you know, the ones that worked out versus the ones that didn't, like, you do pay attention to those. So it just allows me to kind of broaden out. I mean, you think about it, if you took, you know, 2.5% positions, you could take up to 40 positions. I'm not saying to do that, because you always want to leave ammo for the ones that work out. But, you know, I can take 10, 15 positions pretty easily. And if, you know, half of those work out decently, you know, I only need 2 or 3 of them to work out well. And, you know, I can get up to a 10 or even 15% position size on most of those and make the profit on those ones, and the other ones it's kind of a wash. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So just an idea. I'm not saying I'm going to stick with 2.5 because the other time, if you go up to 5% position sizes, you double your profit in the long run. So it's all what I should do going forward is in really strong markets, you go up to a 5 or even a 10% position size as your entrances and go up from there. In weaker markets, you drop right back down to 2.5, and that way, as you take things here and there, you're not just getting killed constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, that'll come with experience.
I forgot to mention earlier, Dane, that I also completely exit the one position this week, which was URG, uranium stock. It performed well for me. I think I have a 10% gain on it. I took it on Friday, 19th of September. But I just, at the end, close to the end of the day, it was below the 10-day moving average there. And I had to go and do something. So I just decided to, like we have talked about now, protect the downside if it's going to end up below the 10-day at the end of the day. So I sold it completely. And then it ended exactly on the 10-day. So I don't know. But I just took the profits.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I do got to get going. So I'm probably going to start to end the stream here.
Yeah.
As always, please join the Discord if you're interested or subscribe. We appreciate everybody coming in. We hope people find this valuable. As we try and improve, that's the whole point. Is we're trying to document that process. We've been doing this stream now for almost 2 years, right? For 2 years now.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So, we haven't gotten quite to where we want, but
no.
That brings me to my next point here, being that it's been almost exactly a year now since I've been hardcore doing swing trading, like, really into it. Obviously I had a million lessons to learn and I've made a ton of mistakes, but even with all that being said, my total gain from about that time has been just over 50%.
Yeah, which is pretty good.
All kinds of idiotic mistakes and things, and it's not exactly correct at 56% because what I do is when I add money to the account, I adjust everything upwards. So it kind of plays with that number. So even if it's not even, let's say it's not quite 50 or around 50, that was my goal initially anyways. So obviously I wanted to improve, and there's been a lot of luck in there too. Like USEG really helped me. There's a few stocks that were actually deep value that have been mixed into here, so it's not totally swing trading that's done this. But at the same time too, I'm not losing money. So
yeah, and it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter for the stream because we have shown everything we do on the stream, So in total, these strategies that we are doing, this is your results. Mine are not as good because I haven't done it even a year so far with swing trading, but
well, you had
like
the
I
whole
said,
brokerage issue and everything too.
Sorry?
You had the whole brokerage issue and the fines and all
that.
Yeah,
I've just had but I'm also blaming myself. I've done tons of mistakes and I still do them. But I feel like the last month or so has been a bit of a change, and I hope I can prove to myself that that's going to last moving forward as well, if the market continues to be bullish, of course.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, when you really started swing trading was at a tough time. The first part of this year, everything was just in a nosedive, and it's tough not to make mistake after mistake in that market because you're trying to test things, but it's a bad market to even be testing things. So it's lessons learned. My highest percentage I had gotten so far this year was just above 60. So I have pulled back a bit from there. That was when I had gotten the 8%. So it wasn't even that long ago. That was last week. I was at that. That's when I should have sold, and I could have been up from there too, because I gained a few percent even since then, even after a big pullback.
Yeah.
So
Max is saying then, is it 50% or PA now or even more? Congratulations, I'm far from it.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I will say, you know, on here, it looks it probably looks easy. It probably looks like, you know, I'm just looking at charts and that. I spend hours every day learning and testing and mentally it is extremely fatiguing. I have a million other things going on in my life and it is not easy to do this. So anybody watching this and thinking that like you're gonna just pull these numbers off or you're gonna get to the point that we're gotten to, it takes a lot of time and effort. It's extremely emotionally taxing at times because I make huge mistakes and you lose money and it's not like it's just rainbows the entire time and you're making money. There is down periods where like I feel horrible, absolutely horrible about it, and you know, and you look back and you feel lost because you'll have some success and then you'll lose out, and it's honestly miserable at times. So you know, I want to put that disclaimer out there that this is not easy.
I think I'm spending pretty much every free second I have on trying to improve on the strategy.
Yeah. I
And
mean, it's tough.
And that's not a lot of time either because I have a job besides this and also, you know, things to do in my personal life. So it's not like I'm spending a lot of hours every day, but when I have some free time, this is what I'm spending on.
I've cut everything else I do. Everything else that I do, until I can get this to work, and where I want it to work. Like I don't do anything else for my own enjoyment.
No, and
maybe sounds depressing to people, but
the reason behind it, though, at least for me, is I can see ways that this is going to work.
Yeah, it's the motivation to get it to work, and like I know if I can get it to work in a few years, all those other things I want to do, I can do them. I can do them whenever I want. I don't have to worry about it. So that's why I'm just, you know, solely focusing so hard now to try and get there.
Yeah.
Hi, bud. I'm almost done. My son's just banging on the door behind me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's almost those guys' birthdays, and that's kind of the time period that this all really started. So I mean, that's kind of like in my head, you know, as it comes up on this time of year, it reminds me of, oh, this is when you started. This is when you got really serious. I started really tracking everything. You know, like Minervini and all these guys say, do daily reports. I don't quite do that, but I do reflect on everything every day. You know, I go through all my charts. I like how Stock Charts is set up. I've gotten used to using it. And making sure that I'm going over almost everything. You know, there's nothing I take where I don't at least look back at it and see kind of what happened. But I am getting my lists more methodical. Everything's honing more down to only the very few things I like to look at. You know, every week. One thing I'll say that's kind of annoying with my market strength is some of the columns I know have gotten a little bit out of whack because I've had to change things because like I'm not screening that way anymore. I'm screening more specifically, and you know my breakouts are a little bit higher right now because I've screened more into just the things I like, and like the failed breakouts seem low, and that's because you know, there's a bunch of names I'm not going to go into. And if you're not new to this, the failed breakouts are going to be a lot higher because you're going to see things that you think are breaking out that aren't. So you know, you might see me post that there's only 5 failed breakouts on a day, where if you're not used to this, there might be 40 because they looked like they were going to break out to you and didn't. You know, I'm not screening for those ones because I know those aren't ones I would have went into anyways. So my market strength is a little biased towards my process. But no offense, the market strength is for me, you know, first and foremost, and it's me improving my model and trying to get better at things. But I would hope everyone else can use it as a template to somewhat see where the market is at least.
For me, but we are also similar, Dane. But I check it every day, and Dane is now talking about the Discord server. He updates daily there. He has a market strength sheet that he has been doing for quite some time now. So it's just to track like the tendencies in the market and the environment at the moment. So if you want to check it out, go to the Discord and to have a look.
Yeah, I mean, I can open it real quick here.
Yeah.
I did have it open. I just had closed it. But yeah, so I mean, my point being is like things I'm saying, and you know, I'm happy to talk about this. Like you can see, in terms of just overall market, like you know, the 1.5 year, the 1 year, and the 6 month, these are all stocks that are moving like really high percentages over those time periods.
Yeah.
You know, we're in a good period. Things are kind of high now. In the more recent, it's been a little bit lower, but once again, so like I'm looking at these numbers here. These numbers are going to go down right now because I adjusted that screener a little bit. So these are going to look a little bit lower than historically they have been, which like I said, it's just something I'll have to deal with. Hopefully after this year, I'll have all these average numbers at the top here and I'll be able to move that to next year's as a baseline. And it should be relatively truly reflective of where the markets are. But like I said, that's why I'm saying like you'll see my failed breakouts here are at 5. But you know, depending on how you're looking for failed breakouts, it might be a lot higher for you if you're not as far along with your screening process. And you know, like you'll notice my breakouts have gone up at some periods, and that's because I'm honing in better on the ones that I would go into. This is the win rate. This is what I was telling you guys about before, where I find it's around. I get my win rate right now at 47%. So if I was really strictly sticking with the breakouts that I think I like versus the ones that don't, this is after 3 days, them still being profitable essentially. And it doesn't mean that they're up a ton. It just means that you didn't lose money on them. And it's not perfect, so don't get me wrong. It's not like you're gonna hit these numbers exactly. You know, you might have got stopped out on day one because it doesn't. I don't look at the intraday chart every time to see like, would have I gotten stopped out exactly, or would I have just stayed in, that kind of thing. So like I said, this is nuanced towards my style, but I hope you guys can get the same kind of benefit I do out of this. And like Johnny was saying, I do post this every day to Discord. It's usually the day after, so it's, you know, you're looking at yesterday's information, obviously, but But either way, that way in the morning, you know, if you pull it up, you know, hopefully I post it before the market opens. That's usually my goal always. So you can just have an idea of looking at this and saying like, okay, where were we yesterday? If this matters to you. I mean, you don't have to use this. Pradeep has his own, you know, this was modeled off of Pradeep's version of it.
Yeah. And he has it on our website, so you can also check that. But
yeah, I just wanted my own because with my own screening process and everything, it's just a little bit more tuned to me.
Yeah. And also it's in line with, I don't know if we have even said this on the stream then, but our philosophy with the entire channel is to just show everything we do, right?
Yeah, I mean that's been the goal, is to be as transparent as possible, because yeah, I just see, you know, don't get me wrong, the pros are great. Those guys tell you all kinds of nuggets of information, and everything I've learned has come from a trickle down from those guys or gals. So it's not like this is anything I've come up with. Now, obviously, you have to establish it for your own way, but you know, it's kudos to all those people who have done it. And then there's also the hundreds of thousands of other people out there who are just sending straight BS out, and they're like, buy this strategy and you will improve by 20%. You know, it's just nonsense. Those people are stealing your money. Don't listen to those things.
It's incredible, the performance of some of these people, right?
Yeah, and I'm not even saying to do what we're doing per se. Like, as always, our disclaimers, we're not fiduciaries. We are not financial experts. I make mistakes all the time. This strategy I could find tomorrow crashes and I lose all my money. So it's not to say to follow this either, but at least it's a guide and it's a process. I mean, you go back to the old videos where we're doing deep value versus now. I mean, it's totally different. You've watched us evolve and get to where we've gotten to.
It's just to show what we do and to, you know,
just to see
if anyone has some questions.
I was just saying, just to see the process of how it evolves.
Yeah. And if anyone has some questions on the way, we try to answer, you know, as best as we can, because we have, this is more related to building the sheets and stuff. Well, it's painful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I said, I had a good week this week. And even though last week was a really good week and then a really bad week, I was at least optimistic because I was like, all right, well, I feel like I'm onto something. And don't get me wrong, that was just a good week in the markets too. So I know not to be too biased in that, you know, when everything's moving. But that's when you're supposed to make money. You know, that's when you're supposed to make your moves, when everything's moving.
I think we both delivered now in that period, you know.
Yeah, and you know, like I said, next week I could be back down 5%, and I'll be
Yeah,
like
yeah.
kicking myself like you're an idiot. You learned
Yeah.
nothing.
No, this needs to be over a long period of time, or else there's no point.
Yeah, and that's why I try and also look at the long term. You know, that's why I'm keeping track of how I've performed. You know, over time. And the other thing too is as the money keeps expanding, I'll probably have to keep adjusting things. You know, I probably won't be able to look at quite as small market cap wise.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a totally different process as you get into bigger and bigger companies. The moves are that much less. You know, so you can, you know, a lot of guys say it doesn't get easier as you get more money; it gets harder.
Yeah.
You know, so I can see that happening too. Which obviously
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. I'm just saying.
No, and that's one of the advantages we have discussed since deep value also. Like that's one of the edges that we have. We can go into things that a lot of the bigger money they can't.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the market cap of everything I own right now, it's all in the few hundreds of millions, which
Yeah.
those aren't small by any means, but they're not really big. Which most institutions, I bet, aren't looking. I mean, if they're specifically small cap to mid cap, maybe they're looking at these ones. But
Yeah.
if they're large cap buyers only, they're not looking at any of this stuff. Even
No.
mid cap. I mean, this is all probably. I don't know where mid cap starts. Where's mid cap?
I've
Million?
never learned like the the filters there.
Mid cap's maybe 500 to like $1 billion or 2 billion, and then large caps over that. I don't know. I'm just saying.
No, I've seen so many different definitions. So
Yeah, but wherever institution lands, you know, it is what it is.
yeah. All right. We will try to be on in a week then.
Yeah, I do have some stuff to do next weekend, so I'm not sure if I'll be able
Yeah.
to do it Saturday or Sunday or what's up, but I'll let you know. All right.
Yeah, we will post in the Discord then, as always,
All right,
except
everybody.
this weekend, which we forgot.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, whatever. Hopefully we're on.
Yeah.
You'll know. We'll post. It posts when we get up there. So.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Johnny, have a good one.
Yeah. You too. See ya.
All right, bye.